Thinking about going offshore? Today, we're doing a deep dive into a small island that could give your business some big savings. Hi, my name is Russudan. I have been working with Nomad Capitalist for the last 4 years, helping high net worth individuals legally reduce their taxes, get second citizenships, and go where they are treated best. So the small island that we're talking about is the Isle of Man. And what is very interesting about Isle of Man is that it is very small, but it has a very good pros and very specific, unique benefits that you can get only in this small island. And in this video, we're going to talk about a couple of benefits that having a company in Isle of Man is going to bring to you, and a few drawbacks that is associated with working and incorporating in the Isle of Man. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you which types of businesses this could be a good fit for. So let's dive into some pros of incorporating in the Isle of Man. The first thing that comes to mind is, of course, tax. We're very big on tax. So Isle of Man doesn't have any corporate tax, or technically speaking, it has zero corporate tax on most of the businesses. And it has no capital gains tax and no inheritance tax. So it is very attractive. So basically, you can incorporate in the Isle of Man and do not have to pay any tax pretty much at all. So we understand why it can be very attractive. So the other benefit that comes to mind is that it has, for a tax haven, for a jurisdiction that has no tax, it has a very good credibility, and it's very stable. There's some offshore jurisdictions and special tax havens where if you are a business incorporated there, even banks, vendors, or different countries that you have to work with, they ask a bit more questions because of the country of incorporation. But I think that out of all the jurisdictions where you could incorporate, the Isle of Man is probably going to be one of the most credible. So I do think that the Isle of Man provides a very unique benefit of having the zero tax and also credibility, and it gives you access to the UK and the European market without the obligation of being compliant and really reporting on a different level to the UK and complying with the UK or the European legislation. So I think that if your business really could benefit from clients in this market, just establishing an Isle of Man company could be very good for you in regards to easily attracting clients, also making it easy for them to pay you. So I think that it's going to give you an advantage compared to, let's say, if you were to incorporate in Hong Kong or in the UAE or some other country where it's it could give you the same no tax benefit, but it would be more familiar for this market to be working with the Isle of Man company. So I do think that in general, the attractions and the benefits that you will be getting is very good, but it, as anything else is in life, it comes with challenges. And the first challenge that, or the drawback that comes to mind, is that it is rather expensive, both on one-time incorporation fees and also the maintenance, future maintenance. And considering there's no audit requirement, you just have to, you have a couple of reports to file, which we're going to talk a bit later. But even with that, just maintaining the company through the corporate service provider is rather expensive. And we are talking around $3,000-4,000 to incorporate US dollars. Of course, depends on who you find as a corporate service provider, so that may vary, but it does give you a good understanding of how much it's going to cost you to incorporate the first year. And it does go up to 8,000, maybe 10,000 to maintain every year, because you need to have a nominal, you need to have a director there. And this does bring me to another drawback that I personally faced while working at Nomad Capitalist, is that the reporting requirements that the Isle of Man companies face are more than you would expect, especially for a country that has no tax, and tax filings are very minimum. But the information that you have to provide to the Isle of Man authorities just to comply with the reporting requirements, even though you're not paying any tax, is really extensive. What I found from my personal experience is that it's one thing that you're providing the information, you can get a corporate service provider to do that, and it costs money, but at the very least it's done outside, like you can outsource that. But because the way that Isle of Man is governing that is that they have corporate service providers, which technically they have delegated their authority of making sure that all the businesses that are incorporated in the Isle of Man are complying to the legislation. So it means that it is up to corporate service providers to make sure that all the businesses that they are managing or that they are working with are compliant to the local laws. It means that they go through your paperwork, go through your accounting, go through your books, and go through your kind of management reports as well to make sure that you comply. And the biggest thing that you have to comply with is making sure that you can show that you have sufficient substance in the Isle of Man to be deemed as a business working from the Isle of Man. And to make sure you do that, you have to have a resident director. And we've seen in some cases you can have a resident director but be managing the company from outside. But it is seldomly the case with the Isle of Man, because you need to make sure that this resident director is signing the document and is like attending the quarterly management meetings and is really included in the management of the company, and it is documented accordingly. So like from our perspective, it is one thing to have expense and the costs associated with the Isle of Man, but it means that you have a other party, outsourced party, who you have to include in your boards of meetings and in your documents, and it adds another layer of paperwork and another layer of this person needs to be included in the emails, which may sound like a small nuance, but at the same time, when you are managing a big business, any additional circle that you have to add means more time, more expense, more resources, and maybe more time that you're taking away from actually building the business and growing the business. So I do think that this is a very, from my perspective, having worked with different offshore jurisdictions, I think that it was one of the deal breakers, I would say, when we were thinking about maybe it is a very good fit for us. But at the end of the day, if you want to have a very flexible business that can grow and that can keep up with the pace that we see in most of the industries, you have to ask yourself, is this something that I can accommodate, or how time consuming is it going to be for me to have another person sign everything? Especially when you have an international business and you have your team in different countries, adding another country and another person who maybe technically wouldn't be that involved in decision making, but has to be involved in the signing and in managing and in being brought to the meetings and signing on your behalf. So what was very surprising about this finding was that, when you start the incorporation process, when you talk with the corporate service providers, they do not necessarily mention the extent as to how this director has to be involved. And I found when you're kind of through the process, you see how much this person needs to be, or this third party needs to be involved in your business. And it is a question to ask yourself. And I do hope that having heard it now, you are equipped with this information early on in your journey, and maybe you can decide if this is a good fit or not. One of the most important drawbacks also is that maybe banking options are not as good as you would expect for the Isle of Man company. And I do think that it's a common practice with, or common issue with the tax havens or the banks or the jurisdictions where you have so many benefits that the banks think that they have to kind of compensate on their end, where they are trying to be a bit more restrictive, or kind of trying to make sure that they do not have clients from these jurisdictions where it's difficult to confirm source of funds or source of wealth or anything. So disregarding the reason, I do think that Isle of Man doesn't have that many banking options. So if you're thinking about incorporating there, you do have to do your research and see exactly which banks would be open to working with the Isle of Man company, and then make a decision would that be enough for me to actually run my business smoothly without any issues, especially the payment related issues. Now that we have covered the pros and cons, I do want to in the last final bit of this video share with you a couple of instances where it would make sense for you to incorporate in the Isle of Man. And the first situation that comes to mind is for the business that is investment or a holding company, or where you have like intellectual property. I think that in these cases, Isle of Man maybe would make sense for you to incorporate, because you wouldn't have a lot of transactions. So the banking drawback that comes with the Isle of Man company wouldn't be as significant for you. You can definitely manage to have one bank account or even more, where it's not like too transactional, but that would be very sufficient for your business needs. The other instance where the Isle of Man company would make sense to me is like really high value business, where the revenue is sufficient enough and more than sufficient enough for you to really take on this maybe a bit more of an extra cost of maintaining the company in the Isle of Man, incorporating and maintaining the company in the Isle of Man, when you do have like maybe a bit more of a cheaper options. But if you have a high value business, it makes sense for you to go to a jurisdiction where you get credibility and you get a sense of stability as well. And the last instance that comes to mind when I'm thinking about like who it would work best for is if you expect to have clients, or if the market of the UK and the EU is a good fit for your business, then you should definitely consider incorporating in the Isle of Man. As I said, it is very familiar to those markets to be working with the Isle of Man company. So it will make the communication, payments, like just going through the KYC process for different third parties really easy and smooth. So I do think that in the long run, it is going to save you some time and effort to establish relationships and just have like clients, have vendors, have suppliers there, where you will not have to answer a lot of questions. Just make sure that just providing the information, name of the company and the incorporation country would be enough for you to be recognized and not to have answered a lot of questions. In conclusion, I can say that the Isle of Man is definitely a jurisdiction that you can think of when you're thinking about incorporating offshore. I hope that this video provided you with some details about the pros and cons of having a company in the Isle of Man. And if you do want to get more understanding about this, you can always go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply and we will be happy to assist you. Please like, share and subscribe. My name is Russudan and I will see you in the next video.